London, early 2026. Before the first rays of sunlight reached Big Ben, a strange atmosphere seemed to envelop Clarence House. Unverified information was stirring up public opinion about a pivotal decision that could change the course of one of the world's most prestigious families. Instead of the usual social news, insiders were questioning the temporary suspension of an inheritance distribution process related to Princess Diana's estate. Was this merely a simple administrative procedure or the activation of a protective mechanism established decades earlier? In the world of strict royal rules, the existence of a sealed will has always been the subject of speculation. An abstract concept has begun to emerge: the third clause. According to several theories put forward by analysts, this clause doesn't focus on political upheavals or media attention, but rather seems to point to a more fundamental value: the integrity of the lineage. If this scenario is true, then activating it signals that the institution is facing a potentially structurally destabilizing event, rather than just a media frenzy. All attention is now focused on a shocking theory: the emergence of a 29-year-old woman referred to online by mysterious initials. Is there a connection between the present and the late 1990s, when personal secrets were often obscured by the glitz and glamour of the stage? Unofficial sources suggest that a handwritten letter from 1996, allegedly from the late princess, unexpectedly surfaced after an internal audit. If the rumors are true, that letter contains prophecies of divided bloodlines and a crown shaken by seduction. This is a dramatic fictional scenario, a mother seeking to protect her children from dangers she foresaw decades ago. While London is reeling from legal scrutiny in West Hollywood, tense moments seem to be unfolding between the main characters of this story. Images of a thick stack of documents and stunned faces have left the public wondering, is it time for a long dormant truth to be revealed? The silence from those involved often provides fertile ground for theories to develop. Could it be that a discreet settlement failed to reach a consensus, leading to the issuance of an asset freeze as a last resort? We are facing an investigation into traditional values, truth, and heritage. These are just pieces of a larger picture, and we have only seen the tip of the iceberg. Is this a necessary purge to protect legitimacy, or merely a compounding of misunderstandings within a family already fraught with turmoil and in a world where information is constantly changing? Do you think the ultimate truth is as important as the choices we make about what we believe? Leave your thoughts in the comments section, and we'll analyze them further in the following developments. Amidst the media storm, a statement rang out, not with the clamor of a fame-seeker, but with an unusually calm demeanor. The central figure in this controversy did not mention the crown, nor did she refer to the figures in the trust funds. Instead, she emphasized a fundamental human right: the right to know one's origins. The information circulating describes a decades-long quest for the truth. I just want the truth to be acknowledged. A simple statement, yet one that carries immense weight, capable of shaking even the most impregnable palace walls. In the age of technology, theories don't just remain words. Observers are buzzing about the existence of a document supposedly showing the results of genetic analysis from a renowned expert at UCLA. If the parameters of 99.98% similarity are accurate, we are no longer simply dealing with a fabricated story, but with a real threat. Biological evidence. It's very challenging. Why would such a crucial document surface at this sensitive time? Is it a mere coincidence of fate, or the result of a carefully planned effort to bring an old secret to light? The investigation takes us back in time to 1995 to 1996, a period when archivists and insiders were scrutinizing every millimeter of the protagonist's timeline. A ceremonial event in Chicago sealed files from ecclesiastical institutions in the Vatican. Theories suggest there were media lulls during this period, coinciding with the time a baby girl was allegedly born in Oak Park, Illinois. If we connect these ambiguities, a completely different picture of the past gradually emerges. It raises a major question about consistency in the public records of celebrities. Can we ever truly know everything about someone's past, no matter how long they've been in the spotlight? Deep within the sealed archives of the Vatican, there are reports suggesting the existence of a file from 1997, a request to revoke past commitments. Theories are circulating about the presence of an unidentified entity within these ecclesiastical documents. If these clues to the past are real, they are not simply old pages of paper. They pose a perplexing puzzle: moral trust and transparency. In the world of royal protocol and international law, inconsistencies between public records and personal reality can have consequences that extend far beyond a simple family dispute. It touches upon the very foundations of immigration regulations, prenuptial agreements, and the legitimacy of a long-standing institution. Deep within the sealed archives of the Vatican, there are rumors of a record from 1997, an application to annul past commitments. Theories are circulating about the presence of an unidentified element within these ecclesiastical documents. If these clues to the past are real, they are not simply old pages. They pose a perplexing puzzle: moral trust and transparency. In the world of royal protocol and international law, inconsistencies between public records and personal reality can have far-reaching consequences extending beyond a simple family dispute. It touches upon the very foundations of immigration regulations, prenuptial agreements, and the legitimacy of long-established institutions. Why is verifying ancestry so crucial? The answer likely lies in the spirit of third clause. This is part of Princess Diana's will. From a hypothetical analysis perspective, inheritance is not just about material possessions, but about the clarity of bloodline. Once doubt is sown, it has the potential to undermine the validity of any claims related to trust funds. This is no longer a battle of the present, but a battle to protect the authenticity of the lineage against unforeseen variables. On January 16th, a blurry video clip allegedly filmed at a West Hollywood cafe caused an online uproar. These images captured not just a conversation, but a fierce clash between two worldviews. Through analysis of body language, one side showed panic, while the other displayed extreme tension. The fragmented words are believed to have appeared in that space. The truth was there before it began. Good, the future of the next generation. While the authenticity of the conversation remains questionable, the emotions emanating from those frames are undeniable. Could the black file the woman carries be the key to unlocking the Diana Protection Fund, a fund currently frozen in a terrifying silence? The character codenamed AM, though never appearing directly on screen, has become the focus of a global investigation. We are witnessing the most serious legal and ethical reckoning in decades. Is this a perfectly orchestrated move to redefine power, or the inevitable resurgence of a truth that has been suppressed for too long? If you held the black file, would you choose to release it to seek justice, or keep it secret to protect the peace of a family? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and follow so we can get to the bottom of this investigation in the next part. In the corridors of British justice, a legal case has just been filed, not seeking glamorous titles or material compensation, but aiming for a more abstract goal recognition of bloodline. If this request is granted, it will create an unprecedented precedent, placing a missing piece right at the heart of the royal succession diagram. The existence of the figure codenamed AM is not just a personal story. It is an entity capable of changing the entire trajectory of the Sussex family. The emergence of these streams of information seems to have created an emotional storm for those involved. There are reports of mental instability, self-reflection on the past, and doubts about the authenticity of seemingly predetermined events. Meanwhile, the absolute silence from the central figure Meghan Markle is being scrutinized by analysts. Is this a tactical move to observe her opponent, or is it confusion in the face of a truth that is gradually emerging? On January 17, 2026, a brief news item in the official Vatican newspaper attracted the attention of royal legal scholars. Despite being written in coded and cautious language, the announcement appears to confirm the preservation of documents relating to discussions from 1995 to 1996. Why would a powerful religious institution like the Vatican retain the spiritual anxieties of the late Princess Diana? Theories are connecting details about a blind Tibetan mystic and warnings about a turbulent future for Harry. Could what we are witnessing today have been foreseen over 30 years ago in a secret meeting between humanitarian groups? Faced with undeniable pressure, the Royal Medical Ethics Council appears to be considering a scenario previously considered impossible, demanding independent verification of biological records. This has been described as a last resort to protect the legitimacy of the royal institution. A truth-checking is underway where traditional values confront modern scientific evidence and prophecies from the past. We live in a time when history is no longer a collection of old pages, but a living entity demanding transparency. From secret Vatican files to a mother's handwritten letters worrying about her child, every path leads to one ultimate question: does truth always bring liberation? Or does it sometimes foreshadow a greater downfall? Do you believe in factual scientific evidence or spiritual warnings preserved for decades? Deep within royal history, the late Princess Diana's secret anxieties about what she called a divided lineage are often mentioned. There are theories that after her meeting with an Eastern mystic, she left behind two important documents. If one was kept by her loyal butler, the other is believed to have lain untouched in the apostolic archives in Rome for decades. The contents of the document, titled "Secret Letters Sent Through the Air," are becoming the focus of speculation. The prophetic passages about outward appearances concealing true nature and those who attempt to grasp the crown without its bloodline are sending shivers down the spines of observers. Although the Holy See has not officially confirmed it, the recent opening of rare archives for legal investigations demonstrates the seriousness of the matter. The investigation appears to have extended beyond religious documents to include security matters. Sources suggest that special surveillance protocols have been set up to review the period from 1995 to 1998 in Meghan Markle's life, a period now considered a golden opportunity to unravel mysteries. What is being discovered has the potential to shake the entire media landscape of the Sussexes. The key point lies in a figure from Pennsylvania who is believed to have had a close connection with her in the mid-1990s. Has an old chapter in her life been forgotten, or is it shrouded in a thick fog of privacy? Why have rumors of a past ritual suddenly resurfaced so strongly? The answer likely lies not in ordinary civil records, but in forgotten papers within church institutions. Theories are centering on a request to annul a marriage commitment sealed in 1997 in Chicago. If these documents truly exist and confirm a contradictory lifestyle and the presence of previously undisclosed personal elements, it would completely alter the definition of transparency for modern members of royalty. We stand before a labyrinth of sealed files, prophecies from the past, and high-level security investigations. Each piece unearthed leads us to a deeper question of identity and truth. Should we believe what is presented on camera or the coded messages preserved in handwritten letters from 3 decades ago? If Diana's prophecies are true, are we witnessing the beginning of a downfall or a necessary purge for the future of the crown? According to the strict regulations of ecclesiastical law, sensitive files concerning influential figures are often forwarded to Rome for processing at the highest level. Among these documents, the existence of a confidentiality request is mentioned, a plea for the confidentiality of personal information, because those involved are likely to face the public eye. The issue here is not about the rightness or wrongness of a personal choice, but about the compatible with traditional rules. In the world of royalty, transparency is not just a virtue, but a legally binding requirement. If the pieces of the past, from marriage commitments to the presence of dependents, are not fully disclosed from the outset, it will create a legal domino effect directly impacting the constitutionality of current relationships and international residency procedures. A legal advisor once made a rather cryptic remark: "The issue isn't the shame, but the gaps." The unfinished pages of the main characters' life stories are being pieced together by all parties involved. On January 14th, the presence of a key figure at a leading law firm specializing in international disputes opened a new avenue for speculation. Instead of silence, a multifaceted defense strategy appears to be taking shape. The goal is likely to prevent the spread of documents from the Vatican, protect the biological privacy of future generations, and reshape the nature of the palace's financial freeze. A voice from Hollywood offered a sharp analogy: "This is no longer an ordinary game of chess. When the pieces are no longer in the right positions, people tend to want to overturn the entire board." On the morning of January 18th, 2026, history will likely record this as the moment when vigilance shifted to a state of large-scale, coordinated containment. A whisper from a 29-year-old woman became a real earthquake, forcing all levels of leadership to take action. We are witnessing a convergence of classified intelligence records, ancient Vatican rules, and modern genetic analysis. All are coming together to create a moral and legal judgment unlike any other in the modern history of the Windsor royal family. The veil of mystery is gradually being lifted, but behind it lies a new labyrinth of questions. When truth is no longer a single concept, but a synthesis of fragments from the past, what will we believe? Can an established system adapt to unprecedented variables, or will it choose silence to preserve its existing structure? And more importantly, in the battle between transparency and privacy, who truly holds the key to the future? As the legal hurdles from Diana's third clause began to take effect, a new strategy quietly emerged in the corridors of power from Windsor to Clarence House. Observers called this heritage blockade, inheritance lockdown, a systemic response to unpredictable developments from the Vatican and transatlantic legal moves. The focus of this campaign is believed to revolve around the decisiveness of the heir to the throne. On January 17th, an executive directive was reportedly issued suspending all claims and ceremonies related to the Sussex family. This is not merely an individual reaction, but is seen by experts as a self-defense mechanism aimed at preserving the asset's reputation and stability of future generations. One of the clearest signals of this purge is the correction of institutional memory. The removal of a central figure's name from the archives of long-standing royal initiatives sends a quiet but powerful message. While legal hurdles are being set, the family's moral guardian, Princess Anne, appears to be taking on the role of overseeing transparency. A comprehensive audit of funding and donations during the 2020 to 2023 period has been triggered. The ultimate goal of this action is to ensure that the royal institution is not drawn into scenarios they never agreed to. This is no longer a matter of a family. It is a test of a monarchy's ability to govern itself. While legal storms rage behind closed doors, Princess Catherine appears to be playing a long game through the power of symbols. On January 18th, her appearance in a navy blue outfit at a children's hospital drew all eyes. Fashion and historical analysts suggest this is no random choice but a strategically calculated reference to the image of Princess Diana, a silent message of stability, composure, and the continuation of the legitimate lineage is being sent amidst the storm. This battle is not only taking place in legal documents but also in shaping public perception. When the monarchy chooses coordinated restraint and heritage blockade, they stand at a historical crossroads. In the most turbulent times, dignity is sometimes defined by silence. Some sources claim that Princess Catherine made a very impactful statement: dignity is a more enduring language than opinion. This is not merely a conversational phrase, but is considered by observers to be a guiding principle for the dynasty's defense strategy. Within the internal world, heritage seems to be likened to a garden. To maintain its beauty and purity, the gardener not only protects the trees from storms, but also must quietly remove weeds elements that could harm overall growth. The meticulousness in each internal memorandum and the decision to freeze financial privileges were seen as necessary steps to preserve the heritage estate from potential legal risks. As doubts about integrity spread, the monarchy appeared to have established a no-entry, no-exit defense system through 3 new rules, a defining moment of silence. All mention of the figures at the center of the storm has been suspended in official discourse until the issues of lineage are legally clarified. Storage is limited. Joint projects and related digital data are all placed in a sealed state, creating a barrier separating the past from the present. Contingency guardianship scenario. A group of experts has reportedly been formed to examine legal protection options for the next generation in preparation for a worst-case scenario where current legal frameworks become ineffective. This stance represents a dramatic shift from a reactive to a permanent defensive posture. While the walls of London were being reinforced across the Atlantic, a completely different kind of rift was unfolding in the spotlight. The meticulously crafted media image appears to be undergoing a significant erosion. The first domino fell when one of Hollywood's most powerful guardians officially announced the severance of contractual and personal ties. According to insiders, this rift doesn't stem from typical financial conflicts, but rather from a feeling of being caught in a hypothetical storm they never wanted to be caught in. Manipulating alliances is the term being used by the American media as an explanation for this sudden turn of events. A thought-provoking theory about kindness and its limits is circulating among Hollywood observers. Unverified reports suggest that one of the Sussex's most powerful allies has realized a harsh reality. Sometimes rescuing an entity in distress inadvertently brings the storm into one's own life. This figure's quiet withdrawal is seen as a red flag for the entire entertainment industry. If these speculations are true, the central figure is no longer seen as a brand asset to be protected, but seems to be shifting to what the business world calls a state of reputation risk. Looking back at media history, people are beginning to analyze a pattern called the Risk Alliance. From the shocking announcements of 2021 to the unusual silence of media giants in 2026, we see a systematic erosion of trust. The once impenetrable walls of A-list alliances now seem fragile in the face of exposed inconsistencies. There are reports of streaming giants and talent management companies undertaking a process they call a risk alliance, reassessing the value of commitment. The fact that audio projects are delayed or publishing contracts are rejected within just 48 hours are pieces of the puzzle that indicate a withdrawal-controlled repositioning is happening on a large scale. In Montecito, the glamour that once served as a beacon of self-repositioning is now shrouded in an ominous silence. No official announcements, no massive campaigns, only the stagnation of product lines and quiet farewells on professional social media platforms. Local reporters describe the situation with the phrase, "The fortress is cracking." When bridges to the throne are broken and alliances in Hollywood crumble, the protagonist must confront a reality they probably never imagined: systemic isolation. The legal actions at this point seem more reactive than proactive, and any silence is being interpreted by the community as tacit confirmation of the prevailing theories. Her silence is being analyzed by the community as tacit confirmation of the prevailing theories. At this point, a big question arises, based on the recent events. What are your thoughts on the main character in this power struggle? If you find their actions somewhat understandable, leave a comment with the number 2. But if you believe this is an inevitable collapse of media masks, leave a comment with the number 5. Your opinion is a crucial piece of the puzzle in this discussion. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next shocking details we're about to reveal. On the evening of January 18, 2026, the focus of all attention narrowed to a single figure, Prince Harry. Amidst legal proceedings and frozen financial accounts, the palace silence seemed to carry the most terrifying message. In particular, the cryptic statement by a senior member of the Royal Advisory Council on January 17th marked a significant shift. This was no longer about maintaining personal distance, but an effort to redefining institutional value in the face of change. We are witnessing a powerful purge where illusory values and fabricated narratives are facing the harsh realities of law and ethics. Is this the final chapter of a dream of American thrones, or the beginning of a profound self-reflection for those involved? As the spotlight fades and the cheers die down, what will remain beneath the frozen surface of these titles? In the architecture of a modern dynasty, people are beginning to realize that heritage cannot be built on assumptions. Transparency is not an act of cruelty. It is considered the highest measure of trust. Questions about biological eligibility and authenticity of lineage now seem to have moved beyond the tabloid pages and into the very heart of Windsor's legal system. At Clarence House, an unprecedented decision is believed to have been made, activating Regency Clause 14, a mechanism seen as freezing recognition for cases where there is ambiguity in the evidence. On the morning of January 18, 2026, insiders recorded a highly symbolic image: a man leaving his Montecito mansion in a private car carrying the last belongings of his late mother. This was not simply a geographical journey, but was interpreted by psychological analysts as a symbolic retreat, a return to a life of solitude in the face of unavoidable truths. Some argue that this was not an expression of anger, but rather a profound sense of loss, as what had once been fought for was now vanishing through legal proceedings. The reappearance of the former housekeeper, along with a handwritten letter from May 1997, has become a haunting turning point. The words allegedly written by the late Princess Diana about her choice between love and legacy are being used as a legal framework to assert the legitimacy of inheritance funds. In California, a new defensive strategy is taking shape, attempting to reshape the narrative through the lens of injustice. However the world seems to be shifting, instead of emotional displays, the public is beginning to crave concrete evidence. The palace's silence, coupled with the head of the dynasty's brief speech on longevity and managing time, drew a clear line. A final separation has been established. No more financial ties, no more old privileges, and no more nominal overlaps. A veiled saying is circulating within inner circles. Sometimes, to protect the crown, you have to choose to let go of someone close to you. The story of self-made glory seems to have come to an end. The dynasty, after enduring harsh trials, now stands firm in its authority and remains unshaken. In your opinion, is absolute transparency the salvation of a long-standing institution, or is it the very factor that shatters even the most beautiful dreams? If you were in Harry's position right now, would you choose to remain silent or speak up? Leave your comments before we get to the most shocking part. This content is purely for informational purposes, based on unverified hypotheses and opinions. Let's discuss it from an objective analytical perspective. Don't sit still, interact with me. Press 1 for curiosity and 0 for skepticism. Like and subscribe now to join me in uncovering the truth behind the veils.
I mean, you really believe that maybe she had just decided to disappear for a time?
For a time, and then that she would call us and we would go and join her.
Visualize the intense moment as Prince William and Harry, two men who have lived their lives in the public eye, find themselves moved to the core by a truth they never saw coming. In an unprecedented move, King Charles has brought to light a confidence kept in the shadows for years, the last most personal wish of the people's princess. This is the moment where historical silence ends and a mother's true legacy is finally realized before the world. The question that lingers in the air is why this profound desire was kept in the shadows for so long. For two brothers who have been separated by a chasm of past grievances and public pressures, this revelation serves as a mirror to their own lives, offering a chance for a new understanding. This goes far beyond a simple headline. It is a cultural earthquake that challenges the stability of the institution, reminding us that the most powerful force in any monarchy is the truth of the human heart. Within the hushed corridors of the king's official residence, shielded from the relentless glare of the media, a pivotal event transpired that would alter the crown's future. In a profound gesture of transparency, King Charles unlocked a personal safe to address the hidden burdens of his royal inheritance. This vault had reportedly remained undisturbed for decades, a silent witness to history. Yet inside lay neither crown jewels nor official decrees, but a simple sealed envelope inscribed with the recognizable script of Princess Diana. Summoning Prince William and Prince Harry to his side, King Charles presented the letter with a voice heavy with emotion. "This is your mother's final legacy. She left this specifically for both of you." A profound hush descended upon the room, marking the end of a 20-year silence. The gravity of the situation spoke for itself. Tucked inside was a handwritten letter by Diana just days before her passing, a document known only to the king and his most loyal advisor until this sudden unveiling. The letter's text unveiled a long-concealed perspective on Diana's final intentions. Her vision for her sons centered on a life unburdened by the rigid expectations of the throne. Rather than focusing on status, wealth, or protocol, her message prioritized their autonomy and personal happiness. After absorbing the words, Harry reportedly noted that her true desire was for them to prioritize their humanity over their royal heritage. To William, the gravity of this encounter felt profoundly intimate. This was far more than a simple piece of correspondence. It represented a final echoing voice from the mother taken from him far too early, a woman whose life was cut short by the very world she sought to transform. "I never anticipated the sheer magnitude of the scrutiny." The letter read, describing a life where public obligation and private peace collided in a nearly unendurable struggle. She envisioned a life for them defined by true independence. This disclosure ignited a surge of emotion and brought critical questions to the forefront. Why had Charles withheld this letter for so long? What specific pleas had Diana penned in those concluding sentences? The pursuit of these answers triggered a series of seismic shifts within the palace, threatening to reshape the very foundations of the modern monarchy. The weight of these revelations is becoming overwhelming. They are on the verge of uncovering even deeper truths that could permanently redefine the legacy of the British House of Windsor. Drop a number 2 in the comments and subscribe now, because the upcoming chapters will challenge everything you thought you understood about Princess Diana and the future of the crown. Diana's ultimate ambition was for her sons to experience true independence. The correspondence was short, but its resonance shook the very foundations of the House of Windsor. Drafted in her recognizable hand just weeks before her tragic end, this final message focused neither on wealth nor the acquisition of prestigious titles. It wasn't an act of retaliation against her adversaries. It was a mother's desperate appeal, urgent, visceral, and haunting. As one aide revealed, the letter pleaded, "Allow them to live without fear. Let them define their own lives." These sentiments were reserved for her sons William and Harry, the two individuals who anchored her entire universe. They were the sole reason she weathered every sterile state dinner, every public indignity, and every heartbreak suffered in the shadows. Diana's haunting concern was that the monarchy would recast her boys as marble statues, shimmering remote and hollowed out by centuries of institutional emotional restraint. She had observed the psychological toll it took on Charles and the monarchs who preceded him. The institution didn't instruct its heirs in the art of empathy. Instead, it trained them to master a public facade regardless of the personal sacrifice. Diana sought to break this cycle for her children. "I refuse to let them be imprisoned by a life they didn't choose," she penned. "They deserve to love openly, to experience emotion, and to lead without hiding behind a persona." Within the rigid walls of the palace, that sentiment was revolutionary. It was profoundly moving. It was quintessentially Diana. She understood that one day William would inherit the massive burden of the crown, while Harry, as the second-born, would face the even more complex struggle of being the spare. Diana feared their identities would be molded by institutional duty rather than personal passion, that the weight of the monarchy would eventually erase their authentic spirits. This wasn't a call for an uprising. This was fundamentally a mission of sanctuary. As the global spotlight tightened around the family, their inner confidence began to erode within a haze of isolation and sorrow. While they gradually distanced themselves from those who could offer support, Diana endured what she characterized as the emotional vacuum of the royal institution. She had sought compassion only to find herself constrained by a rigid set of mandates. She reached out for a lifeline and was met with a wall of indifference. Though she became the most scrutinized woman on the planet, she lived in a state of profound invisibility. She was determined to prevent history from repeating itself. Yet what truly stunned William and Harry wasn't simply their mother's final plea. It was the crushing realization that their father had withheld that secret from them for more than 20 years. The correspondence was hermetically sealed, tucked into a confidential file, and submerged beneath layers of bureaucratic red tape within the king's personal vault. The motivation. According to palace confidants, Charles dreaded the impact of Diana's words not merely on the crown's public reputation, but on its delicate internal architecture. If her ultimate desire was for her children to reject the monarchy's grip, how could the centuries-old institution endure? Some insiders suggest Charles feared the message would validate Harry's departure and plant seeds of profound uncertainty in the mind of the future King William. Alternative theories suggest this wasn't an act of guardianship, but rather a display of systemic power and control. Regardless of the motive, the consequences were irreversible. The veil had finally been lifted. Both princes were suddenly forced to grapple with a reality that had been obscured for their entire adult lives. Yet for William, the gravity of the moment was far more profound. It appeared Diana hadn't merely addressed a single letter to both of her children. Back in 2004, during a modest restoration at one of Diana's former residences, a startling find came to light. A long-lost message concealed for decades was found tucked between the leaves of her private photo collection. This document, wholly unique within the annals of royal history, was written exclusively for Prince William. It bypassed all state channels, serving as an intimate rather than a formal or official decree. This was a profoundly intimate exchange, a candid and heartfelt dialogue between a mother and her child. Upon reading those passages, William was reportedly left reeling. The text unveiled a perspective that remained obscured to the public, Diana's acute understanding of the immense weight her eldest son would eventually be forced to shoulder. "The day will come when the crown is yours," she penned. Yet what followed was neither a summons to service nor a lecture on sovereign obligation. Instead, it was a poignant appeal. "Promise me you will protect the child you once were." In those few words, Diana's voice bridged the gap of decades. It was a mother's warning about the inheritance awaiting him, the relentless scrutiny, the demand for conformity, and the slow erosion of identity that so often accompanies the throne. The intrigue surrounding this correspondence deepens when analyzing its specific timeline. It surfaced not during the chaotic 1990s, but amidst the simmering tension that preceded the public dissolution of the royal marriage. One must wonder, did Charles truly hold these convictions at that stage? Was he reaching out to a high-ranking ecclesiastical advisor, or perhaps a mentor following in the footsteps of the legendary Lord Mountbatten? Within the palace, some contend this was no mere slip of the tongue, but a calculated emotional maneuver. These written words have compelled historians to reconsider the monarchy's official timeline. It raises a haunting question: could this be a nascent confession of something far more significant than previously imagined? Are we witnessing the unraveling of a sophisticated institutional concealment that has spanned decades? Unverified theories that were once relegated to the shadows have suddenly resurfaced with a new intensity. Once viewed as mere speculation, these questions about the royal succession have gained new traction following the reveal of the king's private papers. This leaves us with a haunting question: is there a hidden chapter of royal history that the establishment is not yet ready for the world to read? Everything changed with the unveiling of those hidden words. A scenario that once felt impossible now seems like a logical explanation for a series of historic anomalies. In the early 80s, Diana's health was often a subject of official concern, yet the details remained shrouded in ambiguity. We are now learning of hushed discussions between medical experts and royal staff that went far beyond public knowledge. If the rift in the marriage was already widening, could the crown have orchestrated a secret solution to ensure the future of the throne? The crown possesses both the influence and the incentive. All that is missing is a veil of silence. Charles's haunting observation, "not hers from the beginning," casts a chilling new light on the past. In this scenario, Diana may have been recruited to fulfill a public role, raising a child to whom she had no biological tie. This perspective offers a potential explanation for both the hidden correspondence and her years of quiet suffering. Some historians now argue that this is more than just conjecture. It could be the key to understanding the profound emotional void and the lifelong sense of displacement that has defined Harry's journey. If Charles was attempting to voice a conflict he had grappled with for decades, it would explain the long-standing friction noted by those closest to the crown. While their public appearances were governed by rigid formality, a distinct lack of warmth became increasingly undeniable as Harry reached adulthood. While some dismiss this as a mere generational gap, insiders perceive a deeper pattern, a systemic avoidance of vulnerability. As one former palace official observed, Charles often appeared hesitant to bridge the emotional divide with Harry, as if he were caught between a desire to connect and an uncertainty of his own right to do so. The House of Windsor has long functioned within a realm of rigid protocols and unspoken legacies. They maintain a fortress around their private hardships, demanding a uniform silence from every member of the lineage. Historically, they have resisted evolution, anchoring themselves to ancient rituals while shunning any public display of vulnerability. However, Diana chose a different journey. She gave a voice to her suffering courageously, identifying the solitude she faced and exposing the staggering weight of the crown, a reality no one had previously ventured to describe. It was this very authenticity that cemented her place in the public's heart. Prince Edward, observing with his characteristic composure, watched the internal struggle play out. He saw the royal establishment faltering to maintain its pace, while Diana's vulnerability forged a connection with the masses that the crown simply could not replicate. Her honesty did more than just illuminate her private battles. It cast a harsh spotlight on the increasingly obsolete foundations of the monarchy itself. For decades, the House of Windsor had meticulously curated their public persona. They maintained a glossed and remote exterior, yet Diana proved impossible to regulate or suppress. Her profound authenticity, which captured the global imagination, emerged as the ultimate danger to the traditional royal order. She evoked a visceral, deeply human response, transforming her into more than a defiant royal. She became an existential threat to the very foundations of the throne. The more the establishment attempted to muffle her voice, the more evident it became that their hold on the public's loyalty was slipping away. Within the walls of Buckingham Palace, an impenetrable silence has taken hold, a quiet that offers no clarity and admits no fault. Behind the vacant corridors and hushed high-stakes meetings, a palpable sense of dread is mounting. Insiders suggest the true fear isn't just this single revelation, but the specter of what else remains hidden. A royal source has confirmed that a specialized crisis management team has been mobilized, reminiscent of the unit deployed during the Sussex's landmark Oprah interview. Their objective is clear: contain the leaks, mitigate the fallout, and retrieve the original dossier. Rumors are now swirling that additional correspondence may exist, letters intended for Diana, William, or Harry. If even one more document comes to light, the consequences could be catastrophic, potentially triggering a legal and constitutional crisis that challenges the very laws of succession and royal inheritance. Prince William is a man who carries the weight of the truth. He has guarded this secret for decades. If he were indeed a silent participant in this concealment, it wouldn't be just a family matter, it would be a betrayal with the potential to fracture their bond permanently. The burden of this knowledge is immense. As the face of the modern throne, William has been meticulously prepared for leadership since infancy. However, following the revelation of this letter, his long-standing silence has begun to invite scrutiny and spark uncertainty. If this secret was indeed part of the palace's inner circle, it's highly likely that William has lived with it for many years. Prince William and Prince Harry, enduring figures in the global spotlight, have navigated their share of public triumphs and private tribulations. Yet no hardship parallels the devastating loss of their mother, Princess Diana. For the brothers, her passing was more than a personal tragedy. It was a seismic shift that fundamentally altered their trajectories. In truth, the once unbreakable bond between William and Harry began to subtly erode in the wake of her death. While difficult to confront, these undercurrents of friction had been mounting for decades, eventually serving as a primary catalyst for the drastic transformations in their respective lives. William was transfixed by the archival footage, captivated by the visible warmth in his mother's eyes. He watched as Diana tenderly brushed a stray lock of hair from Harry's forehead and leaned in to share a private whisper that sent Harry into a fit of laughter. While the audio remained a mystery, the physical language of her affection was undeniable. This wasn't merely a nostalgic clip. It was a long, sealed portal to a childhood William hadn't realized he had suppressed. Watching it now, he felt the sharp, familiar ache of grief, a visceral reminder that a vital piece of his history had been permanently severed. Positioned at the base of the monument dedicated to her memory, William began to speak. "My mother's voice has been my constant companion." He remarked, a solemnity in his tone that forced the world to stand still. This transcended a mere public tribute. It was an intimate unburdening of a secret guarded by the establishment for a lifetime. Bit by bit, he started to recount the final phrase Diana breathed into his ear during their last moments together. A secret message that for nearly 30 years had belonged to him alone. William also dedicated himself to dissecting the origins of Diana's turmoil. While some wounds had scabbed over others, remained dangerously close to the surface. He began a period of deep inquiry, seeking out those who knew her best, driven not by a desire to replace his mother, but by a mission to preserve her essence. To him, this was the only way to ensure her brand of compassion endured. Eventually, William's vision shifted toward a permanent tribute, one that felt profoundly authentic. He didn't envision a cold marble gallery or a sterile monument. Instead, he sought a sanctuary that felt soft and familiar, a peaceful garden, or a quiet, sunlit room filled with her photographs. It would be a space designed for reflection without judgment, a place where the world could finally see Diana as she truly was. Diana did the impossible. She breathed life into an institution that had grown cold. Before her arrival, the monarchy was a world of shadows, hidden behind layers of rigid rules and a calculated professional distance. The royals weren't people. They were icons of history and tradition expected to remain unmoved by emotion. Diana, however, rewrote the script. She didn't seek sanctuary behind guards or grand facades. She was soft-spoken yet bold, choosing to lead with her heart, and showing the world that even a future queen wasn't afraid to offer a warm public embrace. She traded distant scripted gestures for a place in the heart of the crowd. She touched hands, looked strangers in the eye, and shared moments of authentic connection that felt entirely foreign to the royal script. Diana didn't just represent the crown. She humanized it, closing the gap between the palace and the pavement. Yet the very warmth that endeared her to the world was seen as a dangerous liability within the cold corridors of power. To the establishment, her accessibility wasn't a triumph. It was a breach of tradition that shook the royal family to its core. Diana's popularity wasn't manufactured. It was a natural byproduct of a heart that refused to be managed. She didn't just occupy a space at official engagements, she transformed them into moments of genuine connection. While others observed protocol, she visited the sickbeds that many were too terrified to approach. By embracing those living with HIV/AIDS, she didn't just change the narrative, she forced the world to see their humanity. Her walk through active minefields wasn't for the cameras. It was a tactical move to demand safety and justice for the victims of conflict. She didn't seek the spotlight. She redirected it toward the people the world had abandoned. The battle to remain authentic eventually left her exhausted. The strength and independence that defined her were the very things that fueled her deepest heartaches. She could no longer survive behind the mask of a dutiful, smiling royal. When she stepped into the light to share her pain, she shattered the illusion of the crown's perfection. The royal family, anchored in centuries of secrecy, found themselves paralyzed by her truth, caught in a storm of honesty they never saw coming. It leaves us with a haunting question. Was Diana the architect of the monarchy's future, or the catalyst for its collapse? Stay tuned for the answer. The role she played is impossible to ignore. Many argue that she granted the royal family a second act they desperately needed. Before her arrival, the institution's relevance was beginning to fade. In the eyes of the public, the royals were starting to resemble a museum piece, rigid, unapproachable, and locked in an outdated script. With Diana's arrival, the entire landscape was transformed. She brought a warmth and a vibrancy that reconnected a fading monarchy with the hearts of the people. She forced the royal family back into relevance, dragging them, however reluctantly, into the light of the modern world. But her presence was more than a spotlight. It was a beacon that penetrated the shadows of the institution. Many believe Diana didn't just change the family. She exposed them, unearthing the secrets and the silence that the palace had guarded for a lifetime. When Diana began to vocalize the isolation and crushing pressure she endured within the palace, she effectively dismantled the velvet curtains shielding the monarchy's pristine facade. She revealed that beneath the glimmer of the diamonds and the grandeur of the staterooms lay a rigid, insular environment defined by institutional coldness. Her unflinching honesty struck a profound chord with the global consciousness, creating a legacy of truth that decades later the royal establishment is still laboring to reconcile. Diana's life on the world stage was a grand theatrical display, a facade she perfected for a nation in love with the idea of a princess. Yet, in the quiet of her private journals, she stripped away the costume. She didn't perform. She confessed. These hidden pages reveal the raw, unvarnished story of a woman standing at the edge of a precipice. Her writings are a roadmap of loneliness and a haunting fear of total loss of self. She captured the growing resentment within her marriage, writing, "He hates that they love me more than him," as her popularity became a source of palace-wide tension. In these pages, she laid bare her internal war with bulimia, a silent, agonizing cry for help in a world of golden silence. To understand Diana, one must look at her not as a princess, but as a mother who refused to surrender her children to the machine of the monarchy. Despite the cold indifference that met her cries for help, she waged a silent war for William and Harry's souls. "They are the only part of my life that matters," she wrote. "I won't let them become shadows." She saw the trap before they did, the danger of growing up emotionally distant, obsessed with optics, and isolated from human connection. Looking back, her diaries read like a roadmap of the very struggles we see today. She foresaw a future where the frost of the royal family threatened to extinguish the warmth of genuine family bonds. However, this uncompromising honesty bequeathed her sons a rare inheritance: the permission to be vulnerable. Her collective writings, the diaries, and that final correspondence established a definitive creed: prioritize love over legacy, safeguard the heart over the hierarchy. Diana's ultimate ambition transcended mere security for her children. It was an urgent plea for their authenticity, a shield intended to prevent them from becoming captives to the sterile, unyielding traditions of the crown. The veil has been lifted, and Diana's final vision is now a matter of public record. The monarchy is standing on a historical precipice, facing a transformation that will redefine its legacy forever. This is no longer a simple domestic drama. It is a battle for the soul of the crown. Will William choose to follow the ancient script written by his predecessors, or will he fulfill the promise his mother left behind, a leadership rooted in human connection instead of institutional pride? The gravity of this choice is the ultimate burden of his inheritance. Could this revelation serve as the catalyst for reconciliation, or has the distance become an insurmountable gulf? Between the weight of public words and the scarcity of private grace, the crown's silence speaks volumes. Yet the reality is undeniable. Everything has changed. With the Elizabethan age over and the current reign aging, the future of the throne now rests with a generation rising from the legacy of a mother who stood against the machine and sacrificed everything to change it. This is purely for reference purposes, only based on hypotheses and unverified rumors/public opinion. Let's discuss it from an objective, analytical perspective. We have reached the end of this journey through the poignant and hidden words of Princess Diana. Her spirit remains a powerful force shaping not only her children's journey, but the very destiny of the British monarchy. One question continues to haunt the record. Is a reconciliation possible in the name of their mother's last request, or has the divide become an insurmountable part of their history? If this story moved you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We appreciate you. An unprecedented declaration from the British royal family has sent shockwaves across the globe, a development that defies all expectations. For an institution that has spent decades mastering the art of public perception and stoic silence, this sudden admission of a profound crisis has left the public reeling. This isn't merely a moment of sadness. It represents a seismic shift in royal history that forces us to question the very longevity of the monarchy itself. Type the number 1 in the comments as we peel back the layers of this unfolding royal mystery. The reality behind the headlines is as tragic as it is unnerving. On a day that began with the usual meticulously rehearsed rituals and polished smiles, the mood within the palace walls suddenly shifted into a paralyzed, icy silence. Stepping into the spotlight, the royal press secretary, visibly shaken yet maintaining professional composure, delivered a concise statement that instantly blindsided the world. Rumors spread like wildfire. Was it a sudden illness, a shocking abdication, or something far worse? Yet no amount of speculation could have steeled the public for the profound truth that was beginning to emerge. Unfiltered camera angles revealed the raw tension gripping the monarchy. William struggled to mask his stress, his clenched jawline offering a rare glimpse into his internal turmoil. Catherine sat with characteristic elegance, yet her eyes shone with a piercing mix of solicitude and strength. In sharp contrast, King Charles looked withdrawn and overshadowed by his physical frailty, cutting a lonely figure without the support of Queen Camilla, who was notably missing from the proceedings. It was a silence that spoke volumes, unsettling and unexplained, doing nothing to reassure the public and everything to fuel speculation. Within the privacy of the palace, the illusion of stability was crumbling, revealing that the monarch's condition was significantly more precarious than the world had been led to believe. Rumors of his decline had been simmering in the background for quite some time, but the severity of the situation had finally crossed a line where it could no longer be concealed. Just as the gravity of the crisis set in a stunning curveball was thrown into the mix, Prince William and Princess Catherine unveiled a daring new roadmap, not under the King's banner but titled the Diana Initiative. Framed as a reform program, this moved far beyond simple charity or modernization. It was a resurrection of a legacy that has refused to fade since August 1997. By invoking the name of the people's princess, a figure synonymous with raw compassion and courage, this initiative serves as both a touching tribute and a powerful declaration. It signals that even decades later, Diana's spirit remains the guiding force shaping the monarchy's future. The public verdict was swift and overwhelming. The internet erupted with nostalgia, circulating clips that showcased Diana's humanity, from her touching moments with patients to her defiance against the media lens. This surge of support framed the initiative as a hopeful fresh start, yet it cast a long shadow over Queen Camilla. Despite her official coronation alongside Charles recently and years of effort to win public favor, the spotlight moved away from her. Her silence and lack of visibility at major events became impossible to ignore, forcing the world to wonder, is this a voluntary choice, a PR strategy, or the harsh reality of an internal restructuring behind palace doors? Palace insiders suggest that Camilla vehemently opposed the move, warning that it risked drowning out the current royal narrative. Yet as King Charles's condition weakens, her political capital has visibly eroded. William and Catherine have effectively seized the reins, scripting the narrative and steering the ship, proving they are far more than just heirs in waiting. They are acting as the true power brokers. In a symbolic shift, images of Diana have been discreetly reinstated, her patronages revitalized, and her core values of empathy and mental wellness are once again permeating every official statement. Simultaneously, Queen Camilla finds herself navigating increasingly treacherous territory. After spending decades battling for public legitimacy, she now confronts the very real threat of being sidelined as hushed conversations about a post-Camilla era begin to grow louder. Whether this signals a permanent changing of the guard or merely a temporary strategic pivot remains to be seen. Yet the message is undeniable. William and Catherine have taken command masterfully, interweaving Diana's legacy into the modern fabric of the monarchy and rewriting the royal narrative in real time. One burning question lingers. Is this a masterstroke of calculated strategy, or is history simply forcing its way through the cracks of tradition? What untold truths lie buried beneath the weight of the crown? Keep your eyes open. The gilded halls of Buckingham Palace are already echoing with the undeniable whispers of a regime change, and the story is far from over. Don't let the polished tone of the recent announcement fool you. It masks a brewing storm that the crown is struggling to suppress. While the narrative focuses on King Charles's condition, which certainly looms large, there is a deeper undercurrent at play. What's truly unfolding is a subtle, almost invisible shifting of the guard as the reins of authority begin to quietly change hands behind palace doors. Palace insiders describe a scene of chaos behind closed doors, marked by sleepless nights and high-stakes strategy sessions. While King Charles projects an image of stoic stability to the cameras privately, he is said to be shouldering a heavy burden of remorse. As for the Diana initiative launched under his banner, make no mistake, this is far more than a standard charity rollout. To the world, it serves as a powerful resurrection of the people's princess, instantly tapping into the memory of the woman who set the gold standard for empathy and genuine connection. For Charles, however, this does more than just launch a program. It rips open scars he has spent decades painstakingly trying to stitch together. Every round of applause for the initiative lands like a stinging reminder of past missteps, echoing the ghosts of history. Diana's memory has ceased to be a distant echo. Instead, it is vibrant and alive, breathing through her son and daughter-in-law. In William's steel-eyed determination and Catherine's effortless grace, we see the undeniable reflection of the very values Diana championed. For Camilla, this shift feels perilously close to a silent erasure. After decades spent painstakingly reconstructing her public image to earn a fragile acceptance, she suddenly finds herself eclipsed once more. Her conspicuous absence from key moments has sparked intense debate. Is this a calculated step back or a forced retreat? Meanwhile, the whispers are growing louder, suggesting her influence is rapidly waning and her chapter in royal history is shrinking, as the colossal legacy of Diana returns to dominate the spotlight. Interestingly, William displays no overt ambition to seize the throne, yet his presence seems to naturally permeate every void left behind. Unassuming but effective, he is fundamentally reshaping the monarchy's identity, making it modern, empathetic, and accessible. Insiders suggest a telling detail: many of the initiative's key speeches were not penned by Charles's courtiers, but drafted by William and Catherine themselves. If accurate, this signals a massive pivot. The heirs have ceased to be passive observers waiting in the wings. They are actively driving the narrative at this very moment. For Charles, this reality cuts deep. His reign, only officially consecrated at Westminster Abbey in May 2023, is already being redefined by tides he is powerless to stem. The bitter irony is that his carefully curated legacy is now inextricably bound to the memory of the very woman he spent decades trying to fade from history. The palace had banked on continuity, an unbroken loop of formalities and predictable schedules. Yet beneath that manicured facade, the tectonic plates of power have quietly shifted. High-level briefings, traditionally commanded by King Charles, are now increasingly gravitating toward his son. It didn't take long for the press corps to catch on. Suddenly, Kensington Palace, not Clarence House, became the true center of gravity, where journalists went chasing the real story. Without a single official proclamation, the message has been received loud and clear. The balance of power is undeniably tilting. William, historically viewed as the careful observer, is now operating with a fierce, purposeful energy that demands attention. He has shed his guarded exterior for a new authority. His tone is far less casual, his bearing significantly more commanded and king-like. Away from the public eye, sources describe him architecting the future not with haste, but with exacting care, drafting a blueprint for his legacy with the discipline of a commander. Do not mistake this for an uprising. It is far too quiet for that. It is a velvet revolution, a takeover so understated it feels almost accidental to the casual observer. Yet those paying close attention see the deliberate shift in power. And he has a powerful ally by his side. Beside him, Princess Catherine commands a level of respect that renders titles secondary. Her presence in community centers and hospitals isn't a performance of obligation, it is a masterclass in genuine engagement. While Queen Camilla built her standing through calculated appearances and inner circle relationships, Catherine has forged something far more resilient, organic public faith. Each calming gesture and steady appearance reinforces her role as the family's unshakable bedrock, holding the institution together while the ground shifts beneath them. The contrast is impossible to ignore. After fighting tooth and nail to secure even a reluctant acceptance at the 2023 coronation, Camilla is now becoming a ghost in her own palace. Her headlines are drying up and her image is reportedly being scrubbed from key locations. With her patronages receiving less spotlight and her loyalists exiting the stage one by one, the prevailing theory is chilling. This silence isn't a personal choice, it looks like she is being pushed out. For a sitting queen, silence is often sharper than a scream. Being ignored is worse than being judged. Her private refuge, Ray Mill, has lost its power to shield her. What was once a safe haven from royal rituals is now the epicenter of intrigue. The air is thick with speculation regarding mysterious uninvited guests and the discovery of papers that were never meant to see the light of day. Validity aside, these whispers cement the image of a figure once commanding center stage, now being inexorably pushed to the periphery. In the same breath, William and Catherine are actively rewriting the royal script in real time. Their authority isn't broadcasted through decrees, but demonstrated through nuance evident in their genuine warmth and their uncanny ability to channel the very ideals of compassion that were once the signature of Princess Diana. Reflecting the late princess's unwavering empathy, the Diana Initiative is not merely a memory, it is a movement serving as the vital pulse of the monarchy's new direction. King Charles still wears the crown, yet his reign feels increasingly ceremonial. He resembles a figurehead watching from a distance a monarch who has seemingly accepted his role to facilitate evolution rather than resist the inevitable shift in power. For the Queen, this isolation stings like a betrayal. But for the Prince and Princess, it serves as a critical opening, a rare opportunity to rewrite the rules. And so the whispers have evolved into a realization: the crown is not dying. It is undergoing a silent metamorphosis. Its vitality is no longer drawn from the rank of the wearer, but from the consistent grounding presence of William and Catherine themselves. This isn't a monarchy in crisis, it is a monarchy in metamorphosis. The global audience is left wondering if the true matriarch has already ascended to the throne in spirit, holding the crown in everything but name. Yet a chilling question remains. What happens when the palace silence speaks louder than its decrees? What deep secrets are currently rattling the very foundations of the family? Stay tuned, because the final chapter hasn't been written yet. This declaration didn't echo through the grand halls. It didn't need to. Yet every soul within Buckingham Palace seemed to register the frequency. A shockwave rippled through the corridors, fueled not by trumpet blasts or royal decrees, but by their conspicuous absence. For King Charles, who waited over 7 decades to finally bear the weight of the crown, this silence resonates with a deafening clarity. It doesn't feel like mere negligence. It feels like a calculated erasure. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was frantic with hushed meetings and scrambled schedules, all while the king remained sidelined from a decision that was already firmly rooted. As the Diana Initiative dominated the news cycle, weaving its narrative across global media, the result was undeniable. It may not have been introduced as a rebellion, but it functioned like one. It elevated William and Catherine to the pinnacle of public adoration, while simultaneously eclipsing Charles, relegating him to a supporting role within his own kingdom. Charles's first instinct wasn't fury, but deep doubt. The question burned: had empathy been rebranded as a political tactic? The eventual sit-down at Clarence House was thick with unspoken friction. The atmosphere was dense enough to crush the air out of the room. Charles, weary but standing his ground, didn't mince words. He asked why the chain of command had been broken and why the institution was being exposed to the world without his authorization. William, unflinching and calm, offered no apologies. His response was curt, a single sentence capable of rewriting their entire history: "This is not a discussion. It is a strategy." That line marked a silent, irreversible fracture. Charles, molded by decades of protocol and patience, clung to the safety of continuity. But William, forged in the fires of scandal and tragedy, understood a harsher truth: survival now demands speed adaptation and a narrative that speaks to the present. To the father, this looked like reckless impatience. To the son, it was nothing less than preservation. The meeting ended without a truce or a gentleman's agreement, leaving behind a silence brittle enough to snap as the king walked out. It was a watershed moment. Staff openly murmured about a tectonic shift in authority. The tone among the courtiers recalibrated immediately. Strategists started writing new scripts, and assistants began regarding William not as an heir-in-waiting, but as a sovereign who was no longer preparing for the race, but already dictating its pace. It may not have been a coronation yet, it marked a massive, unceremonious transfer of authority. The shift is undeniable. Influence is no longer anchored to the king. It is steadily migrating toward his heirs. But what untold truths lie behind this quiet competition? And is the royal family prepared for the tremors to come? Type the number 2 in the comments to keep following the story. The first shockwave wasn't triggered by a grand speech or a royal decree, but by a few carefully curated words. What started as a polite remark at a charity luncheon became the spark that set the palace rumor mill on fire. When asked about the Diana Initiative, Queen Camilla offered a gentle smile and a chilling reply. "The royal family has always served with dedication. We do not need to invoke the past to prove that." To the casual observer, it was a standard formality. But to the press and the public, it was a thinly veiled jab aimed not just at Diana's memory, but directly at the woman now bearing her torch, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. By the afternoon, cable news panels were analyzing the breach of protocol frame by frame. The internet interpreted the gesture as evidence of a deep-seated power struggle, the specific type of drama the monarchy had desperately tried to suppress. Pundits debated the central issue: was the Queen Consort upholding the institution, or simply protecting her own standing? As approval ratings dropped, the verdict was undeniable. The electorate was far from impartial. Support for the Princess of Wales, already surging following her highly publicized tour of the Commonwealth, skyrocketed to record-breaking levels. Yet the princess chose not to engage in a public tit-for-tat. She let the news cycle breathe, eventually breaking her silence during an unassuming community roundtable for her cause. Skipping any defensive manifesto or sharp retorts, she offered a single resonant observation. "Our obligation isn't to the history written behind us, but to the possibilities waiting ahead." The delivery was poised, yet unmistakable. It served less as a reply and more as a strategic pivot, highlighting a stark divergence. While the Queen Consort guarded the status quo, the princess was embodying evolution. The difference in their philosophies was undeniable. On one side stood a consort, entrenched in the institution's gears, reliable yet unyielding. On the other, a leader-in-waiting who projected compassion, relevance, and intent. The electorate picked up on the dynamic instantly. Pundits began to debate the real issue. Was this merely a friction of personalities or the opening moves of a genuine tug-of-war for influence? Behind the palace walls press, aides scrambled to contain the narrative, aggressively leaking reports that the royal front remained completely united. However, sources on deep background suggest a shift. The princess's leverage has expanded well beyond mere ribbon-cutting opportunities. She is driving the cultural agenda, architecting policy, and quietly overhauling the definition of authority inside the firm. Distinct figures, divergent paths. Although the institution maintains a facade of tranquility, the populace is increasingly choosing teams. But what is the actual catalyst behind these rumors of a split? And just how fractured is the foundation? Stick around as we investigate. The rumors were circulating through the corridors well before the tabloids caught the scent. This wasn't the standard gossip regarding wardrobe malfunctions or gala gaffes. It was chatter concerning a profound, unsettling shift. A Cold War was brewing in plain sight. There were instances where the Princess Royal, typically the gold standard of discipline, let visible irritation show piercing the veil of royal decorum. Is this merely a domestic squabble or the initial fracture in the monarchy's bedrock? The mystery lingers as the truth stays under lock and key. To observers familiar with the Princess Royal, this conduct is hardly a shock. She isn't one to stir the pot simply to grab headlines. When she chooses to push back, it is a calculated maneuver driven by ethics rather than ego. And in this instance, she isn't locking horns with a staffer or a mid-level bureaucrat. Her opposition is the Queen Consort herself. The Princess Royal has long held that the institution is more than mere pageantry extending beyond noble ranks or balcony appearances. In her eyes, it is an active obligation to the citizenry. Any figure, regardless of rank, who jeopardizes that mandate will meet her stiff opposition. Yet the Queen Consort is a veteran of public warfare. Her resilience was hardened in the fires of tabloid outrage, controversy, and constant observation. From the era of relentless media attacks to her coronation at Westminster Abbey in May 2023, she has demonstrated that she is tenacious, calculating, and a master of endurance. To assume she would fold under criticism or Anne's stoic disapproval is a massive miscalculation. If the Princess Royal symbolizes unvarnished integrity and service, the Queen Consort personifies quiet grit and tactical maneuvering. Collectively, they act as opposing currents, meeting in what is arguably the most understated friction point in the modern era of the monarchy. This friction isn't a recent development. Insiders suggest the animosity has been brewing for generations, well before the consort's formal integration into the firm. Their shared past is knotted with ancient grievances, complex romantic histories, and pivotal choices that reshaped their lives in unpredictable ways. To really grasp the current freeze, you have to rewind to the 1970s, when the Princess Royal was captivated by Andrew Parker Bowles, a dashing officer with undeniable swagger. The relationship was electric, and speculation about a marriage was rampant. However, the act of settlement presented a non-negotiable roadblock. Because Andrew was Catholic, marrying him would have required Anne to surrender her royal standing. The romance, no matter how genuine, was doomed by ancient statutes. Camilla's subsequent ties to both Andrew and Charles only thickened the plot, transforming overlapping love triangles into a permanent, complicated legacy that irrevocably shaped the House of Windsor. This tangled network of vintage romances and official responsibilities paved the way for the icy stares and clipped dialogue now leaking into the public sphere. Therefore, when the Princess Royal's frustration bubbles up, it isn't simple hard-headedness. It is rooted in a half-century of private lore, emotional treason, and necessary concessions. And when the Queen Consort stands firm, it isn't just vanity. It represents the grit of a survivor who has scrapped for decades to ensure she isn't written out of the narrative. This isn't merely tabloid fodder. It is a quiet, cold war waged through political capital, allegiance, and heritage. The Globe is watching intently, dissecting every missed appearance and frosty interaction, asking the pivotal question, is this simply a reopened scar or evidence of an institution buckling under its own pressure? One fact remains undeniable. The standoff between the Princess Royal and the Queen Consort transcends rank or pageantry. It is a contest over who gets to architect the firm's trajectory and who, in the final historical analysis, will be recorded as its ultimate guardian. Lately, the tension flared up again, not in hushed whispers, but right in the public eye at the University of London's Great Hall, where the Queen Consort was being recognized for her literacy advocacy. The room buzzed with a mix of grandeur and anxiety. Camilla arrived with regal poise, Anne with quiet dignity, yet even their body language was read as a coded message. When the consort motioned for the princess to walk ahead, Anne declined, stepping back to let Camilla pass. It might have looked like a small courtesy, but it was a gesture heavy with symbolism. Just days later, the palace released a statement confirming the Queen Consort would sit out a major engagement to treat a chest infection. It might have been standard procedure, yet the timing raised immediate eyebrows. Why withdraw right on the heels of such a high-profile ceremony? Was this genuinely a health setback or something deeper and more strategic? Meanwhile, the Princess Royal pressed on with her itinerary in New Brunswick, and her lack of comment only served to stoke the growing rumors. The public is asking the hard questions. Is this a battle of egos or ethics? You have Anne, the gold standard of discipline and structure, squared off against Camilla, who climbed the long ladder from public rejection to the throne. The rumor mill is churning out theories about legal skirmishes and quiet turf wars. Maybe this will all fade into the background, or we could be watching the clouds gather for the next massive storm to hit the monarchy. Transparency is not an act of cruelty. It is considered the highest measure of trust. Questions about biological eligibility and authenticity of lineage now seem to have moved beyond the tabloid pages and into the very heart of Windsor's legal system. At Clarence House, an unprecedented decision is believed to have been made, activating Regency Clause 14, a mechanism seen as freezing recognition for cases where there is ambiguity in the Amid the misty haze of London, an undercurrent of storm seems to be forming, threatening the long-standing calm within the royal walls. Some suggest that a figure of considerable stature, one we commonly know by the title Duke of Sussex, is embarking on a grueling journey where newspaper headlines are no longer mere information, but arrows aimed straight at the past. Is this a struggle for truth, or a chess match in which the pawns are slowly leaving the board? Recently, those in the know have begun to whisper about unusual signals emerging from the legal machinery accompanying the Duke on this path. Imagine an army advancing forward only for the chief architects of the campaign to suddenly choose to step away from their posts. Is this merely a routine personnel change or a strategic withdrawal after sensing cracks beginning to appear in the defensive wall? Many hypotheses suggest that allegations of gathering information through non-traditional methods targeting media empires are running into unseen resistance. As the light of justice begins to shine into hidden corners, details once thought to be solid now seem more fragile than ever. While one side strives to portray the image of a victim of press manipulation on the opposite front, media giants are painting an entirely different picture. Some currents of public opinion suggest that the line between observer and participant can at times be remarkably thin. Could it be possible that in this game of power and spotlight, every role has already been scripted? Media organizations are putting forward sharp arguments, hinting that the controversial information was not stolen, but may instead have been deliberately planted from sources within. This legal battle is more than just dry lines in court filings. It resembles a modern-day drama about privacy, reputation, and buried secrets. Will the Duke persevere to the very end in search of the light, or will the raging waves from media conglomerates cause all efforts to dissolve into thin air? The answer still lies behind the closed doors of the courtroom. And you, which hypothesis do you believe in? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. This battle no longer seems to be a confrontation between an individual and faceless conglomerates. It has become a direct clash among people who once stood within the same social circle. One hypothesis now being raised is, could the line between a friend and a stalker be blurred by opposing perspectives? Let's analyze the case of a well-known figure in the media world. The Duke's side puts forward allegations of systematic invasions of privacy, yet the opposing side has played an unexpected card, an invitation from the past. Some sources suggest that, rather than lurking in the shadows, this individual was actually present at a private party in 2011, an event whose guest list was reportedly controlled by the homeowner himself. If this is true, it raises a major question. Could today's outrage be unintentionally denying what were once ordinary social interactions? Are we witnessing a kind of memory rupture between people who once smiled at one another? The story grows even more complex as an email from more than a decade ago is brought to light. The Duke's legal team views it as a trace of illegal activity aimed at tracking the whereabouts of a woman closely tied to his past. However, observers offer a different perspective. Could a routine information request by a beat journalist be interpreted as a dark conspiracy? This is the very crux of the controversy, the fine line between professional zeal and an invasion of privacy. What is astonishing here is not the presence of ironclad evidence, but the way it humanizes those being accused. Rather than appearing as ruthless news hunters, they emerge as professionals carrying out their mission within a complex, symbiotic relationship with the royal family. A thorny question is thus posed to the audience. Is this a genuine effort to cleanse the media landscape, or has it inadvertently become a deeply personal manhunt? As the boundary between journalistic practice and misconduct grows increasingly blurred, people begin to wonder, are we looking at a picture magnified by wounds that have yet to heal? We've just analyzed the situation, and now I want to hear your perspective. Do you see this Duke as a brave warrior or someone lost in the consequences of his own choices? If you feel he deserves sympathy, comment 2. If not, comment 5. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming analyses. Now let's continue with the developments unfolding in the courtroom. As those directly involved begin to speak out and present deeply human counterblows, the narrative of victim and perpetrator no longer feels as simple as the headlines suggest. Will these efforts deliver a resounding victory, or will they unintentionally trigger a backlash, forcing the public to reassess the true motives behind it all? We are still standing at the edge of a labyrinth where the truth may belong to neither side, but instead reside in the hazy space in between. It's often said that time is the fairest judge yet. Sometimes it is also the heaviest burden on the shoulders of those trying to change the course of history. In the quiet confines of the courtroom, observers couldn't help but notice signs of fatigue etched across the Duke's face. Could the weight of a legal battle spanning many years be beginning to leave marks that no camera lens can conceal? The most stirring development hasn't been new evidence, but rather the quiet withdrawal of those who once served as his legal backbone. In the world of strategic decision-making, when the architects step away from a project at its most critical phase, it inevitably sparks conflicting speculation. Some believe they may have sensed that the foundations of the arguments were gradually becoming fragile. Could this be more than a legal reshuffle? Perhaps a signal of eroding confidence in a script that no longer feels convincing enough? This lawsuit was once expected to be the cornerstone of a new era in the battle against the media. Yet if that foundation begins to wobble, it leaves behind a significant symbolic void. Instead of a resounding victory, concerns are beginning to surface about a scenario in which personal credibility is placed under the public microscope. If these efforts fail to deliver the hoped-for results, the price may not be measured only in staggering financial costs, but also in growing public doubt about the judgment and resolve of the individual at the center of it all. On the opposite side of the battlefield, figures once cast as the villains are now gradually emerging in a very different light. They are seasoned professionals, people who have endured personal adversity to defend the honor of their craft. Their resistance is not merely a denial, but a challenge to the very way history is being rewritten. It seems the focus of the trial has shifted. It is no longer a story about events from 10 years ago, but a kind of referendum on truth itself and how we choose to remember it. The image of a lone man in a formal suit standing in the middle of the courtroom evokes a deeply reflective feeling. This should have been a moment to assert authority, yet it seems instead to have become a mirror, reflecting the fragility of personal ambition in the face of harsh reality. Is this the end of a journey in pursuit of justice, or merely the beginning of a costly lesson about confronting the truth? Let us wait and see where the light at the end of the tunnel will fall in this high-risk game of chess. In the most critical moments, presence can matter more than any words. Yet amid the legal storm in London, an unusual emptiness has been noticed. Across the ocean, the silence of the Duke's closest companion has become a topic of intense debate. Observers are left wondering, is the distance of thousands of miles merely geographical or something more, a deliberate absence or a signal of a shift in the shared struggle strategy that has long defined the couple's public image? There was a time when the story of us against the world inspired millions. But now the image of the Duke walking alone into the courtroom facing tough questions and the departure of his advisory team evokes a very different feeling. Some observers argue that the lawyer's withdrawal represents not just a technical setback, but a vote of no confidence in the very essence of the lawsuit itself. When those who understand the case best choose to step away, that is when public trust begins to waver. The greatest pain in this courtroom drama may not lie in the allegations themselves, but in the fracture of an identity. The image of a righteous victim is being challenged by memories drawn from the past. As evidence of close social interactions with members of the media is brought forward, a more nuanced picture emerges, that of someone actively participating in the machinery of fame rather than merely being its prey. Being forced to confront a different version of one's former self appears to be a deeply disorienting and emotionally wounding experience. Harry and Meghan have built an empire on personal narratives, from multi-million-dollar documentaries to headline-shaking memoirs. Yet as the most crucial chapter, the chapter of justice, is being written, the solitude of the man at the center tells a very different story. Is this a strategic retreat to preserve what remains of that empire, or is it simply a battle in which each person must face alone the consequences of past choices? Whatever the answer may be, this game of chess has fundamentally changed how we view the struggle between fame, truth, and the price paid for freedom. Observing the courtroom footage closely, one no longer sees the image of a man radiating the unbreakable energy that once shook the media world. Instead, there is a distant gaze, a posture that seems to be bearing the weight of his own choices. It appears that our central figure is caught between two worlds. On one side, the roots he believes have turned their back on him, and on the other, the bright California dream that now seems to be gradually fading. Analysts suggest that this anguish is a symptom of a deep strategic flaw. In the world of books and documentaries, emotions can be guided through one-sided narratives. But in a courtroom where only cold facts exist and sharp cross-examinations reign, every constructed story must face the stress test of evidence. When emotionally charged accounts collide with indisputable data, the pieces of a so-called perfect media strategy begin to fall apart. The absence of the companion, widely regarded as the architect behind the couple's media strategy, carries a message laden with subtext. Could it be that when carefully crafted narratives no longer have a stage before stern judges' presence, itself loses its strategic value? The empty chair beside him is not merely a physical void, it symbolizes a profound shift in alliance. People are beginning to wonder, is this the moment when strategy gives way to reality? Once yearning to be seen as a brave warrior fighting for justice, that image now seems to be shifting into that of a soldier lost on a battlefield without comrades. Alliances that once felt unshakable have faded into the distance, leaving behind a fortress the owner believed to be privacy, only to discover it is an oasis of solitude. This battle may not end with a triumphant roar, but with a profound reckoning over the price of confronting the past. After everything, will what remains be the truth, or merely the shattered fragments of an unfinished dream? There is a stark truth we often overlook beneath the glittering cloaks. Fame is never the same as real power, and publicly exposing personal pain does not always translate into lasting influence. In a London courtroom, we are witnessing a violent collision between media values crafted in studios and the steel rules of justice. When the stage lights go out, only cold evidence remains, and that is where even the most carefully scripted narratives can be torn apart. Let's discuss a textbook lesson that every media professional must take to heart: consistency in messaging. Observers note a bitter irony in the Duke's journey. On one hand, he fights media conglomerates to reclaim the right to live in peace and quiet. On the other, his most private details, his most intimate conversations, are transformed into high-value contracts on streaming platforms. This contradiction creates a black hole of trust. The 21st century public is no longer easily swayed by one-sided declarations. They raise a philosophical question: can an individual ask the world to stop looking at them while simultaneously choosing to shine a spotlight into their own private room in exchange for attention? When this boundary is blurred, the very concept of a victim begins to wobble at its core. One detail that cannot be ignored is the heavy silence from across the ocean. In the world of power, couples' presence is not merely emotional, it is also a powerful political statement. The absence of a spouse during the most critical hours in the courtroom seems to tell a story of strategic withdrawal. Some hypotheses suggest that when the media vessel begins to wobble under legal waves, maintaining distance becomes a way to preserve what remains of the empire. In an alliance built on the slogan, "Us against the world," one person's solitude is the clearest sign of a campaign beginning to fracture. Is this a sacrifice allowing one partner to face the past alone, or a calculated move to avoid the fallout of a defeat that may have been foreseen? This silence at times can be more devastating than any direct criticism. We are living in an era where transparency is paramount. Audiences are no longer satisfied with moral lectures delivered by those who have amassed vast wealth precisely by making their private lives public. Pursuing a legal case driven by personal emotion rather than solid evidence is a systemic mistake. A courtroom is not a storytelling studio. It is a place for cold, hard facts. When advisors, the very architects of justice, choose to step away, it forces us to reassess. Could it be that the story itself contains contradictions that can no longer be reconciled? In the world of mass narratives, the most valuable asset is not money, but empathy. Yet observers are noting a troubling phenomenon. The map of trust the Duke once built appears to be eroding under the weight of his own decisions. When someone spends too much time trying to convince the world of their pain, they may unintentionally push the audience into a state of fatigue. Perhaps the line between a seeker of justice and a figure consumed by resentment is becoming more fragile than ever under the harsh light of reality. The decision of the legal team professionals trained to defend their client under any circumstances to step away is viewed by insiders as a symbolic catastrophe. In professional circles, such a withdrawal often sends a powerful unspoken message. Could it be that even those most fluent in the law have recognized the growing impossibility of defending arguments that are drifting further and further from reality? Stubbornness, when placed within a humanitarian mission, can be seen as steadfastness. But when embedded in a legal battle riddled with contradictions, it begins to resemble an obstacle. The message the public receives is no longer, "I am fighting for the truth," but rather, "I am trapped within my own preconceptions." We cannot deny that tabloid media has its dark sides, moments of cruelty and extreme invasions of privacy. However, the greatest lesson here lies in how we choose to respond to that darkness. Instead of changing the system or winning the public's heart through genuinely humane actions, the current efforts seem only to generate an endless loop